As a college professor, many students ask me over the years what I was like as a kid. And I typically kind of give them our sarcastic response back that what you see is what you get. I was kind of hatched out of an egg. But in reality, I have a bit of a confession to make. I was an extremely weird kid. So I was someone who had this ultra focus when I was doing certain tasks. One of the first memories that I have is learning how to tie my shoes. I sat on my parents' front porch and literally just unsuccessfully did it over and over and over until one time it actually happened. But that was with the 2 loops into one little knot, but I wasn't satisfied with that. I now had to learn how to do it the up and over way that I use currently today. And so I spent another hour or so trying to learn that. When I was in high school, unbeknownst to my parents, I went to my school principal and said, I really don't like going to the cafeteria, and so I'd like to go to the library. And the principal looked at me and said, but you can't eat in the library. I said, I don't care about lunch. And they called my parents. My parents said, whatever he wants to do. So I went to the library, and what did I do in the library? Well, what would a weird kid do in the library? I went and got a book, the encyclopedia. And I would read the encyclopedia every day at lunch from grade 7 through 12, because my high school was a grade 7 through 12. What I realized is that these oddities of mine were actually starting to prepare me for my future self. Let me give you a quick example. Here's kindergarten me. What kindergartner wears a suit for their first day pictures? No kindergartner does, except for me. And I chose to do this. I actually fought with my mother over it. And she told me years later that she was afraid that I would actually maybe get beat up on the playground. But nonetheless, I did this. This is 8th grade me. The suit is gone. The haircut is terrible. And the fashion in the 90s wasn't the best. But 8th grade me is an interesting me, because 8th grade me was the first time that I started embracing my oddities and what I now know are maybe my talents, and separating myself from my other peers to actually start achieving my goals. And so let me tell you a story. April 1990, I decided to make the decision to run for student council treasurer. Now, this was a big deal in my school because that was a school-wide office, and like I said, grades 7 through 12, and I'm in the 8th grade. I was the youngest kid ever to run for this type of student government. In addition to that, every student in our school was required to vote because they would bring us down by homeroom and they would make you cast your vote. And so in the same fashion that I learned how to tie my shoes, I focused extensively on trying to win this campaign. And so I got special permission to go to school after hours and print out all kind of banners and make signs to campaign. And I spent time then, a night before coming into school, and posting them all over the school. I was really quite nervous when I was on the bus the next day because I knew that for the first time, all of these students were going to see that I was running. I came in, everything seemed kind of normal, and I went to first period. What I didn't know is that one of the other 8th grade homerooms, a group of boys had decided to plan a, quote, rip-a-thon. And so during that first period, they went to the bathroom and tore down every single one of my signs. And so when I left first period, what I saw was all of my signs down and in pieces all over the hallway. I was really quite defeated at that point. In addition, really kind of embarrassed because all of my friends saw it. It took me a few periods to kind of figure out that I learned 2 lessons. Well, the one I didn't learn until maybe later. But the first lesson that I learned was that if you're going to put up signs in a high school for an election, what do you got to do? Put them up high. And so that night, with that focus that I normally have, I went back to the school, I reprinted out and made all of the signs again, but this time I sought out the assistance of a custodian. This time, I put all of the signs in the stairwells at the highest portion of the stairwell so no one can rip them down. No one did rip them down, and a few days later, I was elected the youngest student government treasurer. What I realized is that the biggest lesson that I realized is really that in order to achieve your goals and be successful, you have to be willing to embrace adversity and setbacks. And so what I thought I would talk about today are 4 fundamental principles that I believe are important in achieving goals. There may be others, but we're going to focus on 4. Identifying your goal. The reality is you have to actually write down or actually write out what your goal is if you're planning on achieving it. Now, when I teach, I typically ask many of my classes what their goals are. And almost all of the students will tell me the goal of being successful. I actually don't believe being successful is a goal. I believe being successful is the result of achieving a goal. And so what I urge you to do is actually to write down something that you want to try to achieve. But you can't just write it down. It has to become real to you. And how do you make it real? So currently, I am a district court judge in Pennsylvania, and what that means is I'm a municipal court judge. I oversee a small area in Montgomery County. For a long time now, I've had the goal of trying to get to a higher level court, but I really haven't talked about it, nor have I taken any action with regard to it. This past fall, I decided for the first time to throw my name in the ring and run for Court of Common Pleas for this coming cycle. Didn't work out in the end, but I did it. But when I first started to do it, I actually was apprehensive. And I questioned whether I should be doing it, whether this was the right time. The goal wasn't real to me yet. And so to make your goals real, what I would suggest you do is to talk about them. And so what I did was I started telling people that I care about that I was running for the Court of Common Pleas. As soon as I made that announcement to the people that I care about, that was it. It was like my focus shifted, and that dedication that I have to try and achieve something immediately started to focus on going through that process. So, identify your goal and make it real. Build your foundation. What does building your foundation means? It means that you need to start assembling the experiences that will give you the qualifications to try to achieve your goals, whatever that means. Many of you are doing it right now. You're sitting in school, your education, your work experiences, internships, networking experiences, volunteerism, so on and so forth. All of these things build to be able to allow you to achieve your goals and reach success. Who would have known that 8th grade me, having that experience of having my signs ripped down, would help me in 2006 when I first ran for public office and had to actually go through that process. I would have never known that that experience was going to help me. And so you have to build the foundation so that you have the credibility. Many people throughout my career have told me that I've been very lucky. And I agree with them. I have been very lucky. But I don't believe that my successes are the result of happenstance. I more subscribe to what the Roman philosopher Seneca referred to as luck. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. The reality is since I was very small, I had started preparing. I didn't necessarily know I was, but I was preparing so that when I had the opportunity, I was able to take full advantage of it and move forward. And so I encourage you to build your foundation so that you can start creating your own luck and be able to seize on the opportunities that will be presented to you. The third fundamental principle that I would recommend to you with regard to achieving your goals is to take risk. This is hard. This is really uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, we are preconditioned to think that risk is bad. Look at the definition. Risk, exposure to the chance of injury or loss, a hazard or dangerous change. Who wants to risk something when this is the definition that we're being told over and over again is what risk is? It's very negative. I, however, when I'm trying to achieve something and trying to achieve a goal, I actually change the definition. I think risk is the exposure to great opportunity or accomplishment. It's a turning point, a transition for positive change. Just by changing those words and focusing on the positive aspect, now I want to go and try to achieve that. Yes, there may be some negatives that could come along with it, but it's really the positive in the end that you should be focusing on. One of the hardest things for students and others to be able to actually deal with, and as it relates to risk, has to do with the fear of rejection. That's probably the biggest risk that most people have. And let me tell you a story. I had a student whose name is Dave, and a few years ago he came to me and wanted to talk about internships. This student was a very smart student. He was a healthcare administration student. He was an athlete. He had high self-esteem, and he had a drive to succeed like I've seen in few other students. And so when we sat down and we started talking about the internships, I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I just want to get a job at a hospital. And I said, well, I don't think that that's what you should do. I think what you should do is try to get an internship at a national organization and try to really bolster this experience that you're going to have. Immediately, this extremely high self-esteem kid that I've known now for 4 years immediately became insecure and started talking about the fact that he didn't think he had the experiences to be able to compete with students from other schools. And I said to him, Dave, what are you worried about? What's the worst thing that they could say? No. But even if they say no, it gives them the opportunity to first say yes. And so what do I mean by that? You are in no worse position if you apply or try or expose yourself to some type of risk of rejection. Worst thing that happens is people say no. But if you choose not to do it at all, the answer's no. But if you give them the opportunity, although it may be a no, in the end, it could also be a yes. Dave took that advice, and he applied for the internship. He got an interview over the telephone. He then got an in-person interview. He took the internship and did well at the internship, and by the end of the internship, they gave him a full-time job, and he's now employed by Sloan Kettering of New York. And so Dave had all of the experiences. He had built the foundation that I referred to, but if it wasn't for him actually taking that risk, he would have never had the opportunity to actually go forward and get that luck that most people refer to as. My final principle that I think anyone needs to have with regard to achieving their goals is to find a mentor. This is so important from my perspective. A mentor really will challenge you. A mentor will help you build that foundation. A mentor will kind of give you a hard, good talking to when you need one. A mentor will point out experiences to you that will help you achieve your goals more long term. At every moment in my life that I can point to as success, either professionally or personally, I have had someone in my life who has been helping me to achieve that. And so you have my 4 principles. I hope you use them and to go and achieve great things and to find whatever success means to you. To leave you today, I would like you to leave you with the words of Walt Disney. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.